like it on and off Twitter, and every time I come back, here comes Mark Gunnels. Oh, Chiefs gonna go 20-0. Oh, nobody has done what Mahomes has ever done. I'm like, Mark, do you ever get tired of that? You'll never get like you'll never get exhausted of like playing your little character on social media.
What do you mean? What character is it? I'm just giving out facts and opinions, man.
The one that really got me, and of course we're going to touch on this later in the show, but it was like, oh, breaking news. DeAndre Hopkins leaves emojis under Chris Jones's post. I'm like, Mark, I cannot believe you, man. What are you doing?
It's news.
That's news. Be honest.
That's news. It was on every outlet.
What was the news there? What was the news there?
DeAndre Hopkins seems that him and Chris Jones are having a friendly back and forth on his Instagram page. He was a free agent at the time, and they put it was like praying.
He didn't even say words. There wasn't even a sentence.
Yeah, but
there was two emojis, and y'all as if he was coming to KC.
You have to analyze the emojis; they matter. But I guess it didn't matter because he's a Titan. We'll get into it.
We'll talk DeAndre Hopkins' new home here on Chiefs Coast to Coast Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network, episode 50 with the boys. Mark Gunnels out in L.A., Aaron Ladd here in Kansas City, Steven Sertas behind the board. The Chiefs are arriving to St. Joe slowly but surely. We're talking all things training camp, of course, injury reports, and the latest from the World Champion Chiefs. I want to recap Netflix and the quarterback series as well. I know, Mark, you binged that all in one night. That didn't even last in your household. I
did it, actually.
You ain't finished it?
No, I finished it, but I didn't watch it in one night.
I still have one episode left. So we'll touch on quarterback, what we learned from that. And then, of course, head out to Vegas. Mark is feeling good again. He's got some good juices flowing again ahead of the Chiefs regular season, and we'll preview some good bets to make there. I talked about you trolling a little bit, but really, where you want to start, man? You want to start with the media game? Let's just get it out the way.
We can start there. Let's go.
Oh, he got the video. Oh, the video. Oh, if you're listening to us only, we like when you rock with us on video. Right now, you're watching some of my low life.
What are you doing?
The annual Sporting KC media game. Look, man, my first mistake was playing goalie. That was mistake number one. Our team needed somebody to step up, and I put on the cape thinking that I could be Superman for us. And as you see, it didn't really work out.
Why are you so far on the right? Well, I guess that would be your left. Like, yeah.
Look, well, my defense wasn't helping me out much, so I'm like, you know what? As long as I can like cut off one side of the net, you know, Steve Walls from the W, he tried to make in the video you see, he tried to make a little sliding tackle, I think. But look at the numbers, man. It's not enough jerseys down there to stop the goal.
Oh my gosh, you were so helpless.
This was my first media game loss. It did not feel good.
How many have you played in so far?
This is my fourth one. So I'm 3-0-1, no ties, no draws. So I still, winning percentage-wise, I still feel very good.
So what position did you play in the other games? You're like a midfielder?
I was a forward. The first time out, I scored 2 goals, and I had a chippy really for the hat trick and messed it. And I haven't scored since then. But you know, defensively, I'm still finding my niche on the pitch, if you will.
So I guess it's safe to say you will not play goalie next year.
No. Well, the redemption is coming soon. The KC Current have their media game coming soon. I already heard from their PR people. They said, "Yo, like we can't have you going out like this." So take it.
But yeah, when I saw that video,
y'all want to make fun of.
I had to make sure Serta got that clip for us. I had to make sure we had that.
Unfortunately, it was part of the show here, episode 50. We like making y'all part of the show here on Chiefs Coast to Coast, whether you're rocking with us on YouTube, Twitter, anywhere. I see Stacy already rocking with us on Facebook, says, can I get a hell yeah from my Kansas City Chiefs? Hell yeah, Stacy. Appreciate you rocking with us here. And if you want to leave a voicemail, 816-514-1267 is our voicemail line. let's just go straight into the Chiefs recap.
Mahomes avoids, throws. He's a magician.
Chiefs recap.
I want to start with the Netflix series, man, because that was something that dropped to high acclaim. The trailers were coming out slow by slow. We knew Mahomes was involved in this, but we didn't know how exactly it was going to look like. And here it is, an 8-part series. Mahomes spattered all across it. I think really episode 8 is all about the Super Bowl and him overcoming that ankle injury in the AFC Championship game. But it's Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Falcons quarterback at the time, Marcus Mariota, kind of going through what it takes to be a pro, the preparation, the hits, the time off, balancing family life. You got a behind-the-scenes look at each part of it. Some interesting things, but I want to start with a softball, Mark. What did we learn about Patrick Mahomes from this 8-part series that debuted on Netflix?
I mean, I don't think you learned too much new. I think we already knew that he was an ultimate competitor. He's very fiery. Maybe we didn't know that he cusses that much. And he even said there's a lot of parts that had to take out. So that was actually like the condensed version of him throwing out F-bombs and things of that nature. But it was cool just to see the behind the scenes, him and Brittany, how much she influences him and is there for support. Obviously, he has a kid. He has 2 kids now, so having her around obviously makes his life a lot easier so he can focus, especially during the season, on football, because the preparation throughout the week is crazy. I mean, all the film they watch, the notes he takes and things like that. So it's really cool just to get that in-depth behind the scenes look that you don't really get to see when you're just watching the press conferences during the week and stuff like that. You don't get to see the practices if you're just a fan, or just see it behind the scenes when they're at their home, after losses, after wins, how he's gathering with his family. And, like the Rams game, I believe, they won that game. He wasn't happy about it. And he was at home. He still was like, man, I didn't play that good. His family and friends were like, nah, man, you won the game and stuff like that. But he wasn't satisfied. So it was just cool to see that inside look.
I think, especially since this is something that's executive produced by Peyton Manning, and then Mahomes and his production company has a say in how and what the cut looks like. It is a little Last Dance-ish in that way, where we're not really seeing anything that Mahomes doesn't want us to see. But I think one of the cool parts that stood out to me was a lot of the work that he did with Bobby Stroup. We got looks inside the workouts at home field here in Olathe. And Bobby Stroup went specifically through the ABC days, how they work in season to make sure that Mahomes' body is as fresh as it possibly could be when it's playoff time, when it's key moments, when he's working out at full strength, and some of the unique type stuff where he's putting his body in positions that he wouldn't normally be in. It's not traditional like bench press, I'm looking for them to do like squats and like this old style workout. Like, no, like he's working with the numbers. Stroup has got him down to know that this is an 8-foot jump. I need a 10-foot jump and keep going right there. Like, I thought that was some of the coolest stuff that we were able to see, just what it takes to be a quarterback of Mahomes' caliber, taking home Super Bowl MVPs. And even Kirk Cousins too, man. Like seeing like the brain stuff that he does, and seeing him sit down with a sports psychologist and kind of talk about how he's feeling, the stress of being a quarterback in the NFL when it's not necessarily going your way all the time on the gridiron. I thought it was really cool. And as Manning said, they're renewed for a season 2. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the series develops more and kind of pulls back the curtain on what it's like and what it takes to win games on Sundays, man. Because people think it's just easy. People think when you're Mahomes, you just roll out there and you're just naturally gifted. There's a lot of work that these guys do to make sure that they're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, I kind of feel bad for your boy, Marcus Mariota. He didn't really get too much love, I feel like. And I mean, obviously he had his moments in the series, but, I don't know, man. He's not really, his personality didn't really shine. He's kind of more of a just laid back. He's a good guy, obviously, but, the stars of the show was obviously Mahomes and Cousins. I mean, Cousins, I feel like he really won the most out of this because, Mahomes, we already know the celebrity that he is and things of that nature. But Cousins, I feel like a lot of people are saying, I like Cousins a lot more now. He's actually a cool guy. Like, I've seen that a lot on social media, just looking at the reactions. But, your boy Mariota, man, kind of sad story, man.
It was they did a great job of showing us quarterbacks at each level. And then with Marcus as well, that's something that's been a knock on him for a while. He hasn't really been a vocal leader necessarily. He can go out there and make the plays with his feet, but wasn't always shining when the lights were their brightest. Another guy that wasn't necessarily positioned in the best light, and I want to get your take on this. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. But in this series, as I mentioned earlier, I'm only 7 episodes through, so maybe this last episode we'll see a lot more of this guy than we have. But I noticed that we were getting more of new Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy than we were of then Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. And I don't know, Mark. Am I reading into it a little too much? What's going on here? Because Bieniemy is given a lot of credit for the offense. He's given a lot of credit for the success that Mahomes had. He's had some of his best years, obviously. But we only heard, I want to say to this point, to what I've seen, I mean, maybe Bieniemy had 3 or 4 lines in the whole show for somebody who's as critical in the offense. Why are we not hearing from EB?
I think you're reading a little too much into it.
Okay.
Which is funny because if I said this, you would have been like, "Oh, look at you creating storylines and you're trolling like this. You're taking a page out of quote unquote my book with this, right?" So yeah, you're reading too much into it, man. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I just think obviously anytime you talk about Mahomes and Bieniemy and Eric Reed and Andy Reid, you think about the fluff piece, whatever made up Substack article that came up about maybe there being some tension in that relationship. And when you do get a behind the scenes look like this, Mark, like I'm looking behind the scenes, man. I'm looking for things that necessarily aren't right in front of us. And the fact that somebody that Mahomes works so closely with really wasn't even, you don't have to say spotlighted, because for instance, we didn't hear from Kelsey in this thing. I know it spotlights on quarterbacks, but I thought it was interesting that, you know, we didn't really hear Kelsey's voice much in this show, in this documentary over the 8 episodes. For Bieniemy, who's now obviously going on to bigger and brighter in Washington, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point. We didn't hear Kelsey either, and that's Mahomes' right-hand man. You would think, you know, you see some behind-the-scenes footage of them maybe hanging out at the crib or something like that. So that did kind of surprise me that we didn't see some of that. But obviously the spotlight was on the quarterback, so maybe it was just a conscious effort to make sure that there's not too much others being involved.
One more thing from the Netflix quarterback series as we talk that here on Chiefs Coast to Coast episode 50. I just want to get your opinion on the approach, right? Like everybody does things differently. These 3 guys all play the same position at differing levels and at differing success levels as well. But what do you take from Mahomes' approach versus a Kirk Cousins approach versus a Mariota approach? I think one thing specifically that stood out to me, and we're talking about this series, is the play calls, right? Like Cousins would record them to himself and then play the play calls back while he's driving and then try and repeat it to himself, like different little stuff like that. What do you think of Mahomes' approach and how he's managed to dominate the NFL?
Yeah, so I think with Mahomes' approach, I think a lot of it has to do with his success that he's had so far in his career. You know, we look at him as the best quarterback in the game, and he's made he hasn't been shy about stating pretty much that he's chasing Tom Brady. That's something that is on his bucket list. And, you know, Tom Brady has 7 of those things. So he's not satisfied. He's not satisfied. I mean, we saw, I don't know if this was last episode or not, but I don't know if you saw the part where Brittany was, they were in their new home and she's like, this is for the Super Bowl trophy.
I saw that.
Yeah. So, you know, I thought that was kind of funny and he chuckled about that. But I think it's definitely a serious thing that he's chasing. And you look at Kirk Cousins, he's been in the league, 10 years now? You know, a guy that's only won 1 playoff game. He's been a family man for a while now. So he gives that real, like, he's a dad. Like, he's like the old school dad, right? Like, you know, he was reading books to his kid at night and, you know, just doing things like that. You know, and he just really gives that good old American dad vibes, chilling out there in Minnesota and Michigan in the backyard, you know, with the campus fires and stuff like that. So I think that was really cool to see his perspectives on his life. And then Mariota just had his kid as well, you know, and he's been a journeyman, you know, a backup quarterback. He's in a new spot now. He's with the Eagles now, so he's not even in Atlanta anymore. So just seeing the three different perspectives I thought was cool. Like you got the top of the line, you got the middle tier quarterback in Cousins, and you got the journeyman and Marcus Mariota. And I wonder, will they switch it up moving forward, or will they keep like this kind of same outline? Because I think now you kind of got to mix it up because you already got the three different tiers. So I'm kind of curious to see where they go next. Maybe you have three quarterbacks in the same division or something like that, and kind of get that inside rivalry take or something. But it'll be cool to watch. I know Peyton Manning, he's a very, very bright guy, and he's very TV savvy. So I know he's going to make sure that it stays entertaining for the foreseeable future.
I know Mahomes went first, and obviously he was the big name to kind of get it started here as far as the quarterback series is concerned. But I would love at some point in his career, maybe towards the end of his career, if maybe they get back around to him and see how his approach to the game and see how things change. Kirk kind of talked about, I learned from Santana Moss on getting these like massages or the chiropractic appointments and that kind of thing to kind of prolong my career. He understood that he was a guy kind of towards that second twilight who needed to do a little bit more to get ready on Sundays. Mahomes is still young. Obviously, he dealt with the ankle injury, and that was kind of a free type thing. And yes, he does work with Bobby throughout the week to make sure that he doesn't sustain a lot of those nicks and knacks and bruises. But I would love to see Mahomes at a different point in his career maybe show us behind the curtain a little bit more on how he prepares. Because right now it just seems like he does a lot at the facility. He maybe does some independent study at home, and then he's ready to roll. And he's kind of talked in the past about having to do some work and some catch up on learning how to read defenses and still trying to get his footing in that way. It's crazy. This dude's only played the quarterback position since his junior year of high school. Like that's something that's one of those stats where it's just like, I mean, dudes now are specializing at the quarterback position from like middle school. Like Mahomes picked up the football and played varsity as a junior and has now got 2 Lombardis. Like, I think it would be cool to get him in at some point later in the series. Good stuff there. If you haven't checked it out yet, Quarterback is available and now streaming on Netflix. Let's talk DeAndre
right now. Still number one.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's really good. NFL Film shot it. We talked with the director here at KSHB 41. He gave us some really good insight. If you want some more there, check that out as well. Let's talk DeAndre Hopkins. This is Mark Gunnels' favorite guy to talk about. I don't know. What do you tweet about anymore now that you can't tweet about D-Hop to Kansas City?
Well, training camp is here now, so I got a lot more material to go over at this point in the season. During that period, it was dry. There was nothing to talk about. So I had to talk about DeAndre Hopkins. But now we got some practice stuff going on. But, lead me into this D-Hop stuff. I know you love this topic.
Yes, DeAndre Hopkins didn't land in Kansas City, which if you listened to me on Chiefs Coast to Coast, you would have known months ago. But here we are. It's officially official. Veteran wideout DeAndre Hopkins is signing with the Tennessee Titans. And here are the details. 2 years, $26 million, worth up to $32 million in incentives. The base in year one is $12 million with a chance to get to 15. That's according to Ian Rappaport. And Jeremy Fowler says the Chiefs, including Andy Reid, which I think is an important tidbit there because not many people turn down Big Red when he's involved in the recruiting, kept in contract with D-Hop in free agency, but with Chris Jones' extension still not done and minimal cap space, Kansas City didn't have a contract offer to compete. So really a one-year deal with around $12 million. Way too rich for Kansas City's blood, which we've talked about for a while. Does it surprise you that he ended up in Tennessee after talking so long about wanting to land with a contender?
So here we go with this. And you know this as well. For a while, I was out on the D-Hop train. Like I gave up for weeks until recently, until like literally a week or two.
Until 2 emojis came up on your Instagram and then you were back in.
No, not even that. The fact that he visited Tennessee, he visited New England. That was, a month ago at this point?
It was a while ago.
Still didn't sign anywhere. Obviously, there were offer sheets available. So I'm thinking, logically, if he's going to go to one of these teams, why hasn't he signed yet? So he's clearly waiting on something. So I truly believe that he was waiting on a Chris Jones extension to see if the Chiefs would up their price. But we know Brett Veach, when he has a number, he's pretty firm on that number. And I truly think that he would have came to Kansas City if they were willing to up the price. But like I said, that's not Veach's style, especially for a guy that's 31 years old, has some injuries over the last couple of years, had this suspension as well. But to act like those emojis in that conversation didn't mean anything, it's just disingenuous. Obviously, it meant something, whether it was to up the price for Tennessee to be like, oh no, we can't let you go to Kansas City. You're flirting with Chris Jones now. Like there was something to that, whether it was that or he really had intentions on coming here and was hoping for a Chris Jones extension to get done in time. And he actually tweeted out, he deleted it now. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know what it was word for word, but just paraphrasing here, he said, "Don't be mad at me, be mad at your management." I don't know if you saw that. And to me, that felt like a shot at Brett Veach. Like,
oh my gosh. How?
Who else is he talking about?
New England, maybe?
I mean, okay, maybe it could be for both. Maybe it's for both. Because a lot of Chiefs fans and Patriots fans were in his mentions talking about, you said you want to come to a contender, even though the Patriots aren't a contender. So I don't know why Patriots fans were saying that. But I could see Chiefs fans obviously saying that because they just won the Super Bowl. You're talking about how you wanted a great quarterback, a defense that can win a Super Bowl, and things of that nature, right? A quarterback that loves the game. And then you end up going to Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill. I mean, hey, got your money. Congratulations, D-Hop. We'll hope you enjoy your 9-8 season at best.
Here we are. We got to have a sound. You know how we have like a Vegas, Mark in Vegas sound and like Chiefs. We got to have like a Aaron was right. Where, we got to have something where it's like, yellow light lad finally gets his coronation, like give me, like, come on. I was on this from the very beginning. The money didn't make sense and the fit doesn't make sense. There is no room in the end as far as Kansas City's wide receiver room is concerned. You drafted a wide receiver in the second round the last 2 years. So bringing in a veteran wideout does nothing but stunt their growth and development. You're the 32nd team as far as cap space is concerned. I'm sure maybe there was flirting. I'm sure Brett Veach did his due diligence. And I think the key word in this Jeremy Fowler report is a competitive offer. It wasn't that Kansas City didn't make an offer or Kansas City wasn't interested. It's that the offer wasn't competitive enough for what DeAndre Hopkins was looking for. He was $19 million in Arizona. He was going to try and get somewhere in that neighborhood. He wasn't going from $19 million to $2 million. He was going from $19 million to something in the teens, something in the high tens. He lands in Tennessee, which they need wide receiver help. He'll be a factor there. He'll be an alpha there. He'll be a guy that factors in there winning. And to put my surprise meter on this one, as far as him not landing in Kansas City, it's below a 0. I wish I could go below a 0.
So those emojis didn't move you at all, huh?
I just didn't think it was the right move for KC. Not after drafting a wideout. I mean, maybe if they made that move 4 months ago, like this could be a different podcast. But after the draft, there was no need to bring in DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion.
But could I make the argument that we know rookie wide receivers never do much in the Andy Reid system anyway? So you sign to a 1-year deal because you're not expecting Rashee Rice to even produce regardless, because we saw with Sky Moore last year, only had like 20 catches. So could not make that argument, just a 1-year deal, then year 2, Rashee Rice would be ready to go?
What I would say in return to that, and I hope it's your internet breaking up and not my internet. I desperately hope Serta says that it's you and not me. But my response to that would be basically that, sure, he didn't, we're talking about Sky Moore. Sure, Sky Moore didn't produce and those numbers didn't show up on the stat sheet. But that experience that he got playing in that first year, the ups and downs, the roller coaster, the back and forth, that's invaluable. You can't put it's priceless, as the old MasterCard ads would say. Serta says it's my internet.
It's you. Yes. Yeah.
I'm at KSHB 41. You can't blame my Google Fiber on this. This is purely a KSHB 41 experience. Let's get to the next one. Let's just talk quickly about this before we get into training camp, and maybe I'll rejiggle my Wi-Fi here or something like that. The Chiefs on the links one more time. It was the American Century Championship out in Lake Tahoe. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce seem to be, they're stalwarts at this event now. We've seen them on the links more times than we've seen them anywhere else this offseason. One final goodbye, I guess, for them in the offseason. What do you make of the Chiefs offseason, if you will? Because they got a full victory lap. You know, this wasn't like the last time around where COVID kind of cut it short. They got a full victory lap this time around. Are you worried about a Super Bowl hangover and them being a little too busy, or you don't care? Off season's over. Have your fun and move on.
Yeah, I don't care. Have your fun. Like you said, they didn't get to have it the first time in 2020. COVID happened right after they won the Super Bowl championship in Miami that year. So this year, they're having the full-fledged celebration. You know, they're at the golf tournaments. They're going against Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, just out there again. Steph won this event. They were just there last week. You know, Travis Kelce hosted Saturday Night Live, right? The NFL draft in Kansas City. So it's been a big old celebration. Oh, I didn't even mention the ESPYs. How could I forget that? They had the ESPYs. Yeah. Travis Kelce, the White House. I mean, I keep forgetting stuff and keep adding on to it. Forgot about the White House visit this year. So, you know, they've been all over the place. If you're not a Chiefs fan, you have to be annoyed by how much Mahomes and Kelce has been in your face all offseason. So I imagine the teams and players, other guys are obviously annoyed as well, and they want to make sure that they don't have to endure this again next offseason. So you're going to have the target on your back. But training camp is here now. We know Andy Reid is known for having some of the most rigorous training camps that there are. So I think they'll be fine. They'll get it back in shape if they're not ready right now. And they'll be ready to go come September 7th against the Detroit Lions.
We're talking Chiefs training camp on the other side of this ad break while I mess with my Wi-Fi. Stick with us. I hope that worked.
You were actually fine the last couple minutes.
All right.
And then it messes up again.
Yeah.
Test, you good?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Serta, you got me? Can we jump into the there we go.
Yeah, I got you guys.
Let's jump into the Chiefs preview of training camp.
Stop it. You can't do this. You can't escape. You can't make these plays. You can't make these throws.
Come on, give us a sneak preview.
Chiefs preview.
It's training camp for everybody. Coaches, players, wireless internet connection. Everybody's involved here. Chiefs preview. Training camp. Rookies and quarterbacks are on the field now out in St. Joe, campus of Missouri Western. Full veteran report day on Friday with the first practice on Sunday. Let's start with the update on Chris Jones, who has not been pictured yet, but wouldn't be pictured yet. He's not a rookie or a quarterback. He would start losing money if he doesn't show up, I believe Friday. This is what Andy Reid had to say about Chris Jones when he arrived on report day Tuesday.
That I'll have to just see how that goes. I mean, there's communication going on. That's the important part, and then we just have to see. Yeah.
Not much there. But has your worry or your panic meter really changed as far as getting this deal done, or Chris Jones showing up in time to report for training camp?
It's maybe went up a point since last time you asked me this. I think I was at a 1 last time, so I'm about at a 2. Very, very low at this point. I think it's going to get done. I mean, obviously, the communication has been going on. Andy Reid alluded to that. Brett Veach, when they had the ring ceremony a couple weeks ago, he mentioned that the communication is still there. Chris Jones is still posting on social media as if he's part of the team still. Haven't seen anything that makes me feel like
the SBs too. He was up on stage with the guys.
Yeah, that was a good sign. He wasn't sick for the ESPYs, so that was great. So I really don't have much concern. I do wish it gets done by Friday. I would like to have him there for day one. It's not a huge deal that if he's not, but like I mentioned before, with the young D line, you don't have Frank Clark anymore. You don't have Carlos Dunlap there right now. It would be nice to have that veteran presence there just to kind of coach these young guys up.
I think the one thing that we were really waiting on as far as Chris Jones was Quinnen Williams' deal to come to fruition. And since our last recording, that has happened between him and the New York Jets as far as helping shape what could be the framework or the details behind what Chris Jones's deal would be as far as being in the similar market. I see 4 years, $96 million for Quinnen Williams with a 24.5 signing bonus. Matt Derrick put out some more numbers as far as what it could do and impact Chris Jones. Puts him in that 22-20 range AAV, average annual value for him in his negotiations with Brett Veach. And that sounds about right. I mean, I saw you tweet this week, he's better than Aaron Donald right now. So when you're talking about the best interior defensive lineman in the National Football League, I think most Chiefs fans would agree that sounds about right in that 20 to 20-ish range for him. If you're asking for my panic meter, I think yours was at 2. I'll move mine up to a 3 or 4. I mean, it's taken a little bit longer than I thought. And like I said on previous podcasts, I think Chris and his agents are playing the game well. He's not at the ring ceremony, but he's at Barbecue Fest. He's at the ESPYs. He's not at minicamp, but he's here. Now, it really would make no sense for him to not show up to camp. I mean, at that point, you're just taxing your own paycheck. But could I see cooler heads prevailing at the end of this and them saying, don't worry about that, or we'll build something in for that? Of course. I mean, this guy is a franchise cornerstone, and I don't think he's going anywhere.
And the fact that we're recording this on a Wednesday and they're not supposed to report until Friday, I could see a scenario where our podcast just gets ruined and the deal happens. The deal happens tomorrow or early Friday.
I absolutely agree. Let's move on to some injury updates. Remember, it's not all players at camp right now. As of this recording, we're recording this on Wednesday, July 19th. And we got 2 updates on potential starters for Kansas City. I'll start with Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the rookie out of Kansas State, who was held out of most of minicamp and the rookie activities this summer due to the thumb and the surgery that he recovered from. He told reporters today that it was a surprise surgery to him as well. He heard it on the last play of the Big 12 championship, didn't know it required surgery until after his pro day, and that kind of messed with the timeline over the summer. He says he feels 100%, has no limitations as of this recording, so that's good news. On the other hand, second-year running back Isaiah Pacheco was spotted in a non-contact jersey today. One of those yellow pennies means do not hit, and was listed as limited. I got some reports here from the head honcho, Pete Sweeney, who is not really worried about him being ready for the regular season. He says, based on Wednesday's practice look, I don't see how Isaiah Pacheco, hand and labrum surgeries, is in danger of missing any regular season time at all. The Chiefs will ease him in, but he should be good to go for week 1, in my opinion. Look, this is work for Clyde. This is an opportunity for Clyde. Yes, Pacheco will get work, and yes, Pacheco will be ready for week 1, but he won't be ready for the week 1 in the same way that he was last year. This is an opportunity for Clyde to dominate the offseason, dominate the preseason, dominate training camp, and maybe steal a couple of those early season carries away. I'm not talking about taking a grown man's job, just taking a little bit more and earning your way back into the favor.
You're right, but I'm going to go a little bit further and talk about what about Prince, right? The camp darling. Everybody's really looking forward to seeing how Prince performs out there. Are they going to keep 4 running backs? I think they will for some of the reasons you mentioned. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco, he's not as ready as he was at this point last year, with the hand, even though he will be ready week 1. Jerick McKinnon's a year older. We know they're going to slow play him, make sure he's healthy for the playoffs, for the stretch run at the end of the season. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, last year, most likely as a Kansas City Chief. This could be an opportunity for Prince to sneak in there and steal a couple of carries as well. I'm really looking forward to see how he does in training camp, and especially in the preseason, because he could be a diamond in the rough. Similar to Pacheco, his 7th round pick, Prince coming out of nowhere. Now you're seeing some potential upside there in a not thin running back room, but a running back room that has opportunity for growth, that for some promotion, if you would. So I have a big, strong eye, just like a lot of the Chiefs Kingdom does, on seeing how Prince does over the next few weeks.
Absolutely some carries for the taking as we get training camp started up in St. Joe. Everybody wants to fast forward to playing in Vegas for another Super Bowl and defending that Lombardi trophy, but the hard work and the consistency and the foundation starts right now in training camp. On the first day, report day for rookies and quarterbacks, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes asked about undertaking the challenge of successfully defending their Super Bowl title, and this is what they had to say.
You've got to maintain your edge all the way through the season, and you don't take anything for granted. And so the guys that have been through that experience know that. And then you got to have the ball flip the right way for you. There's so much parity in this league that there's nothing that's granted to you. You've got to earn it, and then there's got to be certain things that just happen for you in the right direction, and then you'd have a chance to do something like that. But to do that, you've got to go this one day at a time approach, and you've got to be intense through those days that you're given an opportunity to get better with.
I'm always confident that we have a chance to get to the Super Bowl, but I understand that's a process. I understand it's not easy, and so I'm going to continue to try to build myself and then help our team get better and better, and for those guys to stay motivated. And I think we have a lot of motivated guys that I think you've seen from some of the quotes from everybody that we want to continue to build this thing. We want to have a special group that kind of can carry out a legacy, and I think we have the right guys, and now let's just go out there and do it.
A lot of new faces around Mahomes, especially on that offensive line. 2 new tackles, but the same goal and the same expectations. I will say for Kansas City before tossing it to you, Mark, last year the Chiefs 7-3 in one-score games and 6-2 in games decided by a field goal or less. Andy Reid talked about it there, man. Sometimes you got to be good, and sometimes you just got to get lucky.
So are you telling me that Patrick Mahomes hasn't already booked his Airbnb for Las Vegas?
He can stay at Mariota's place out there. He'll be all right.
I guess it's a little too early for that. He did it in November last year, so we got to wait a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, obviously when you're Super Bowl champions, you're going to have that target on your back. But I would argue the Chiefs have had the target on the back ever since they won that first Super Bowl. Even though they weren't defending the Super Bowl last year, every time you play the Chiefs, it's still a game that teams get up for. You want to beat Patrick Mahomes. You want to beat Travis Kelce, Andy Reid. It's one of those games, and most times that game is a primetime game, right? Like they're in primetime more than anybody else. So it's going to be under the lights half the time on Monday Night Football, Thursday, or Sunday. So I think they've already have experienced that. I don't think that's going to be anything new as far as having that target on their back. I think the only thing is, can they continue to have that edge and that motivation? Because teams are even going to try more trick stuff. Like they're going to go for it more on 4th downs. They're going to push the envelope more and be more aggressive, do onside kicks and things like that. While the Chiefs, they have their own game plan. They're not going to go outside of it. And there's always this narrative that Andy Reid kind of holds plays back into the playoffs. Teams are holding plays back against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is something that they have to be prepared for week in and week out.
I wanted to talk camp battles to watch entering 2023, but really, I think everybody just wants to know about the wide receiver room. We got a bunch of questions here in the chat, so let's just focus specifically about the wide receiver room.
You love wide receivers. You love it.
I think it's the most interesting unit on Kansas City's team entering this season. It's not a bold prediction. You already issued who you think is making the team. But for those who missed that tweet, I'll toss it up to you one again, and this came from CS off YouTube. Should we have 6 wide receivers on the 53 or 7 with adding Justin Ross? Are we better off without D-Hop? A couple questions there, but all around this wide receiver room, which is gaining a lot of attention entering 2023.
Yeah, so I think 7 is way too much, especially considering I think you're going to have 4 tight ends. And we know Andy Reid likes to keep as many offensive linemen as possible for depth purposes. So having 7 receivers just doesn't seem like that's in the cards. I do think it will be 6. And as you alluded to, I did make a tweet a couple of days ago. I think there's a pretty clear favorites for the 6 spots right now. It doesn't mean it's set in stone, but I think those 6 right now, you're looking at it as of today. I think it has to be Kadarius Toney, MVS, Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, Richie James, and Justin Watson. Now, people may raise their eyebrows when I say Richie James, but you got to look at it. When you have a wide receiver 6 or 5, that guy has to have some value on special teams. And Richie James has experience doing punt returns in New York when he played for the Giants. And he was a pretty solid receiver as well. He had, like, I think 500 or 600 yards one season. So he is a guy that does have some type of experience there as well as a receiver. That's why I think it's going to be hard. I know the hype train is there for like a Justin Ross, but he doesn't bring any value when it comes to special teams. And if you're a wide receiver 6, wide receiver 5, you have to have some value there on special teams. Like Justin Watson, he did some punt returns last year. He fair caught the ball, but hey, he didn't fumble it, right? So he brought some value there as well. And he's probably going to be your wide receiver 5 because they did sign him to a 2-year deal this offseason. So I think he's part of the plans. And we did see Bobby, Patrick Mahomes' trainer, he did make a tweet about Richie James a couple of days ago. I think that means something. I think that has to mean something, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to mean anything.
So you don't think him tweeting that means you don't think Patrick Mahomes is backing Richie James to be on this roster?
Your theory is that Bobby tweets whatever Mahomes can't tweet, but I think there's a couple of holes in that theory. I don't know. I think Bobby has a lot of fan whenever he tweets. Naturally, I mean he is a big supporter of Mahomes and everything Chiefs. He's at the games. Like I've seen him tweet a couple of things where it's like I know that's not accurate, so I can't take everything as law.
I'm not just basing my 6 off of that tweet. I do, like I mentioned before, Richie James does bring value on special.
Of course.
Teams.
But you're taking Richie James over let's say a John Ross. How about the other Ross? Because there's 2 Rosses here.
Yeah, I think I am taking Richie James over John Ross. I think I am right now. Where
Let's
are you at?
Once I get up to St. Joe, unfortunately, I'll be out there on Thursday and Friday, and I want to see the whole team. I want to see them play. Like right now, we're still making assumptions based off of pretty much nothing, paper and expectations. Once we see how players grasp the material, once we see how they fit into the offense, and most importantly, once we see if Patrick Mahomes trusts them or not, I think I'll have a better idea. Ask me after the first preseason game. I thought it was something very interesting we got from Rashee Rice today, Wednesday, July 19th, after camp. He had a very rocky day, first time on the training camp field, and puked a couple times and was exhausted, but still talked to reporters after. And he described the Chiefs wide receiver unit in a very unique way. Check this out.
I'm just kidding. It was, I mean, it was, as expected. Coach, they always tell us to come, be in shape. Our wide receivers, this is like a track team as far as, our wide receiver group. So we come knowing that we got to be expected to run as long as till the game is over, till practice is over.
It's like a track team. Andy Reid likes fast guys who can practice as fast as they play. And Rashee Rice got a rude awakening to that here on Wednesday. But I agree with you. I think he's going to be a part of that 6 that eventually makes the cut for KC.
Well, he better. He's a second-round pick. I mean, that's pretty obvious there, Aaron. that was such a hot take there.
Yellow light.
I think the question is, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. Okay, so we agree that the top 4 is for sure locks. We know that. We know the top 4 is Sky, NVS, Rashee Rice, and Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
I'm of the thinking that there's a lock at 5. I think Justin Watson is a lock too.
I would agree.
Sure you agree on that. Okay. So we think it comes down to between John Ross, Justin Ross, and Richie James for that 6th spot.
Correct. And if I had to rank those right now, I would put John Ross as the favorite at 6. I think that he does a lot of things that they like to do in this offense. Get in space, jitterbug type ability, kind of some of the same things that you see from Kadarius Toney. I don't think that, and like I said earlier in just a few seconds ago, I think a lot of this is based off of paper and a lot of it is based off of fit and us trying to put the tea leaves together. It could be something completely different when the scheme starts getting plugged in and the bullets start flying up in St. Joe. But I think Ross on paper, and as kind of what we saw in minicamp too, I think he fits in round peg, round hole in what the Chiefs like to do offensively.
That's fair. It's going to be interesting, man. I can't wait till you get out there in St. Joe with your camera, your mic out there when the humidity. I hope you don't puke though. I don't think you're going to puke. I think you're a seasoned vet at this point, so I don't think we have to worry about Aaron Ladd puking.
My first training camp, I might have had some struggles with the heat, but now I got the deacon towel that drapes over. I got to change the clothes in the car. I know the routine. I know the routine by now. Having some fun here on Chiefs Coast to Coast, episode 50.
What year is this for you at camp? Year 4?
3? Well, because my first year, 2020, they didn't have camp in St. Joe, I don't think. I thought they just did it at the facilities, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think this might be my 4th camp of my 3rd year going to St. Joe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, come on now. Once you cover the Super Bowl, I mean, training camp, that's nothing, right? Do you care about the batting ratings or you want to save that?
We can talk about it. Why not?
I don't think we have Mahomes and a lot of the high. I mean, I'm pretty sure where we know he's going to be, but some interesting numbers here coming out of the batting ratings. They're using the whole week to unveil the numbers, which is just like, come on, just get it over with. But Chris Jones, 96, which we know. I thought Drew Tranquil at 76 was another one I thought was interesting. The highest rated wide receiver on the team, since we love to talk about the wide receiver room, is none other than Joka himself, Kadarius Toney, who is ranked 81 overall. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is 78. And Justin Reed leaves all safeties on the team with 81. Some other guys in between. FAU, his first Madden ranking is 71. Mike Dana, 74. Your boy, Sky Moore and Rashee Rice, both at 73. Richie James, 76. And we'll get some more as the week unveils. I expect Mahomes to be in the mid-90s. I mean, 95 and above. Kelsey kind of in the low 90s.
Mid-90s? He should be a 99.
He should be a 99, but I don't know. I don't play Madden. Spoiler alert. I don't really know how the Madden ratings work. I remember he was 99 forever, and then I had a couple bad games, and they kind of tweak him in season. Mahomes will be a 99 at some point, right? Like he inevitably he's going to be a 99.
Yeah. I guess the biggest takeaway for me is the fact that, and I tweeted this, is the fact that Aaron Donald is still a 99. And they're supposed to do rankings based on the previous season. But I get, like, you can't go too extreme into that, because if you did, then Aaron Donald would be like in the 70s, because he only had 5 sacks last year. So there has to be some type of balance in, reputation and then what you did last year. But to have him at a 99, like, to me at a 99, you have to be playing at the elite level, like, the entire season. Like, you can't just have a year off and be like, well, you're still Aaron Donald, you're 99. So, and I mentioned, I think Chris Jones right now is better than Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's 32 years old. He's only getting older. Chris Jones is 29. He's at his physical peak right now. I expect to see Aaron Donald slowly decline while Chris Jones is still rising up. That is why I say that. Obviously, career-wise, Aaron Donald's not even close. But I think right now it should be Chris Jones. And Creed Humphrey, I thought he was pretty low. A 90 is pretty low for me. I think he should be in the mid-90s. I think he's either the second or best center in the league. So I don't know, but they kind of undervalue centers. I think Jason Kelsey's only like a 92, I think, or something like that. So I guess they don't really grade centers and give them that much love for some reason.
More rankings to come throughout the week. For now, though, we are headed to Vegas.
Place your bets.
Oh, there it is. There it is. 2 touchdowns. Win by at least 2.
Let's go to Vegas with Mark.
It's been a while, man.
You know, you brought me here. I wasn't going to make a play until you asked in the group chat. You was like, anything in Vegas? You know what? Let me look at the odds. Let me see what I can draw up.
Well, I'm like, we're getting ready for football. You know, people starting to get that itch. Maybe chasing some coin they lost in baseball this summer or somewhere else. Women's World Cup coming up as well. So I don't know. Win some people some money looking ahead to the Chiefs regular season, Mark Gunnels.
Yeah, so I got a future play here, and I like the odds. I have the Chiefs having a passing touchdown, at least one passing touchdown in every single game this year for plus 300. It happened last year. Mahomes threw a touchdown at least once every single game, and he's done it twice in the last 3 seasons. In the season he didn't do it, he missed one game. He had one game he didn't throw a touchdown. So I like the odds here. Mahomes, we know, throws the ball around a lot. He spreads it around. The Chiefs are going to score. So I think this is a really safe play, considering the odds at plus 300. Throw you a little 100 down if you got extra change and win $300 back in January. So I think this is a good play. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one.
You call me yellow light lad. This is the most yellow light bet you have offered up to this point on our platform. The Chiefs to have one passing touchdown in every game? Like, duh. What kind of odds are these? Duh.
But they gave it to me at plus 300. How can I not take it?
What sports book is this?
This is FanDuel.
Reputable outlet. I like it. And as you mentioned, even if I think the one worry here is like, oh, Mahomes isn't able to go, or like the ankle injury from last year for some, I know that happened in the postseason, but if the fear is that even if Mahomes can't go, I still have faith in Blaine Gabbert coming in. First year, came from Tampa Bay, was under Tom Brady there, comes in and plays with Mahomes here, has comfortability in the system. He has that Chad Henne-like feel as far as a backup is concerned. And remember when Chad stepped in, yes, I know that those were postseason games. He still had success in one of the most like tight points of the entire year. I like this play a lot, and it feels very safe. I might actually throw 100 on this.
It sounds like you're gonna throw a little change on there.
Let me drive over to the Kansas side real quick. Make sure I get taken care of before the season starts. Appreciate you, Mark. Chiming in on Vegas. Make sure y'all write that down. Let's scroll through the chat really quick before we get out of here. Chiefs Coast to Coast. Episode 50 is almost over. I don't know if you touched on this. Are we better off without D-Hop? Asks CS on YouTube.
Better off? I think that would be crazy to say. I think D-Hop is still a top 10 receiver in the league. So I'm not going to say you're better off without that type of talent.
You know what the question is, right? Like, you have to consider what it would have taken to get D-Hop as well, Mark. Like, you can't just say, are you better off without him? You got to consider what it would take to get him.
Well, I'm assuming you freed up money and you extended Chris Jones under that scenario to get D-Hop, because obviously you're not going to get him for $2 that the Chiefs have right now. So, yeah, I mean, it would just been a one. Well, that's the thing, though. Would he have signed here on a 1-year deal? Because he signed with Tennessee on a 2-year deal. Now, if you're talking about a 2-year deal, then I may have been out on it. A 1-year deal, I was all in.
What do you think about these numbers from Nathaniel Bryan? Sky Moore, 650-plus receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and 105 rushing yards plus a touchdown on the ground. Is that too high, too low, or just right?
I think the rushing yards is very, very advantageous there. But I like the over on the passing yards, though. I do think on the receiving yards, I do think Sky Moore does get 700 to 800 yards this year. I really do. I think he's going to be – I think there's a scenario where he ends up being wide receiver 1 this year. I'm going to say it right now.
I don't know if that's a bold prediction. I actually kind of like that as well.
Oh, really? Because a lot of people are just assuming it's Kadarius Toney. So I thought it was kind of a hot take, but I guess not. But I think with Kadarius Toney, you want to be very careful in how you use him. I think he's going to be used to a lot of those gadgety type things. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's a chain mover, over the middle type of guy. I think Sky Moore kind of fills in that Juju role, if you would. Obviously, I know he's not the similar body type, but as far as moving the chains, we saw that in that Chargers game, the second one in LA, where they didn't have no receivers there. He had like 5 catches for 80 yards. He was a guy that was there on third downs to move the chains that Patrick Mahomes shows some trust in at times. So I do think this year you see a major leap for Sky Moore. I think he has like 800 and 900 yards this year. I really do.
I want to mark that. To clip that. 900 yards for Sky Moore. I'm hammering the under on that.
I said 8 to 900.
You said 900. Yo, don't try and walk it back now. You see how he does?
I said 8 to 900. 8 to 900. I think the floor is like 650. I think he gets that easily.
It'll certainly be something we monitor here on Chiefs Coast to Coast Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network. We're updating you all on our There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Chiefs Coast to Coast will be back weekly starting August 30th. That means we will have an August 30th episode, and we will have a September 6th episode. And then the Chiefs will open the NFL season from Arrowhead Stadium on September 7th. Did I say August 30th, September 6th? September 7th is the home opener. We will get you ready for that here on Arrowhead Pride. I'll be at training camp tomorrow while Mark is just kicked up and laid back in LA. It's just not fair, man. It's just not fair.
I think I might go to the beach or something tomorrow.
I want to do something, but I'm not going to do it on camera. That's self-restraint right there for Mark, Serta, and Ladd. We'll see y'all next time.